Hello everybody out there on YouTube. This is my third attempt on this video. I tried it just now with my recording it offline on my tablet and it wouldn't let me do it. My space was full, so I need to go through and get rid of some of the videos and stuff that are there. But anyway, moving on. If you're joining me from my TikTok channel because you wanted to see in detail some of the things I'm discussing on here that I've put on videos over there, welcome. This particular video is going to be on tools commonly used in rituals and spellcraft, in Wicca, Witchcraft, and Paganism. Some of it will be agreed with, some of it won't be, and that's okay. I just want to make a quick request that if you don't agree with it, it's cool, but try and have a healthy debate with me about it in my comment section. I'm going to leave my comments open on this video and in probably pretty much every video that I have, because I prefer having open forums with anybody who wants to discuss anything with me. Okay, moving right along. This is my third attempt on this video. One last weekend I tried to make this video and it disappeared. I'm not really sure why, but that's okay too. Anyway, moving into it. Okay, I'm gonna discuss in an order of importance and most used. This is my athame, which I know it's it's referred to I'm gonna do a video on terms commonly used. This is referred to as an athame. It is a dagger by most standards. Outside of Pagan and Wicca, it is referred to as a dagger. Now, your athame is traditionally from your elbow to the start of your wrist joint. I've seen shorter, I've seen longer. Nowadays, some of the traditions of old are not followed. So you'll have shorter or longer athames. In fact, the sword is also used in our belief system. I don't use it right now because I really don't have one that's purely devoted, because when I have a tool, I prefer to have it only used for Witchcraft, Paganism, and Wicca. Mine is the ceremonial version of Sting from Lord of the Rings. It is cleansed and claimed for use. It's associated with the element of fire and God. Quite literally, its symbology is that of God's, some places, to keep this as PG-13 as humanly possible, because there is a lot of sexuality involved in Paganism and Wicca. And before I get you guys, y'all Christians, in an uproar, see, they're blah, blah, blah. No, it's not what you think. One of the common misconceptions is that witchcraft and this, that, and the other is just one big orgy and ritual. No. You might find some that do, but not this guy. Alright. The next item that I'm going to be discussing, I'm going to cover a little bit more about the athame. It is intentionally blunted, and I will show you as proof. Of course, any metal object you take to a point is going to be sharp, pointy end. It's going to hurt if it gets lodged somewhere. So yes, it will draw blood under the right circumstances, but it is intentionally blunted. The athame is not meant to ever draw blood. There is another tool that we use for herbal harvesting, but not the athame. It is a separate item that is used and is referred to as a bowline. I don't have one because I don't do a lot of herb harvesting, so I didn't buy a bowline because I didn't need one. A lot of your pagans would agree that if you don't need an item, don't buy one. Shouldn't have an overprice, but of course don't buy something that's going to cause you not to pay your rent or pay your power bill or a phone bill or something like that, because you've got to take care of your mundane life and your spiritual life at the same time. Anyway, moving right along. This is referred to as a chalice. Mine was bought on Amazon, I believe. A lot of my tools are. My athame was bought on there, and everything you saw with it was all bought on Amazon. This one was also bought on Amazon. Pretty good rates in buying it there. Mine has a separate thing that becomes disconnected from it, so I can clean it physically, so I'm not, drinking dust, because it does sit a while. Now, this tool is, every tool on a pagan or witch's altar or a Wiccan altar is has a purpose. Nothing is there by accident. Nothing. If it doesn't have a representation and it doesn't have a use, it simply isn't going to be there, because you have limited space on the altar and you don't want to take it up with clutter. It's kind of like your house. You need to keep it organized and whatnot, or you're not going to know everything you have, and you're not going to be able to know whether you need to buy something in the store, so you're going to be wasting a lot of money on something you may already own. Moving right to the next one, this chalice, its representation is the, I'm not going to put that down yet because I'm going to need that. The cup section of it, this part here, right off the stem, from right here at the top of the stem, where the bowl starts, is the womb. The stem itself, and the rest of it is, how do I put this, the pathway to her womb. To keep it PG-13, again. And is associated with the goddess and all her energy. It doesn't have an elemental correspondent that I'm aware of, but I could be wrong on that, so if I am, please comment below and let me know. Let's see. The only three things you will see more prevalently that have to do with the chalice that's going to be housed within it during a ritual or spell work or holy day. One of the 8 holy days is water, wine, or juice. You will find some, and before I say it, I don't need all the Christians out there going, see, they use blood in their rituals, they're evil. No, we're not. I will explain in the debunking video that I intend to record after this one is posted on here. Some do use blood, but it is an offering. They will usually prick their finger, not with the athame, they will prick their finger with a blade that is designated for it, or a simple needle from a sewing kit or something. But mine personally, and many of us, do not use blood because of its association with pain being caused during the act of retrieving blood. Most of us believe that it taints whatever work we're doing, whether it be a spell for healing, love attraction, ritual, celebration, whatever it may be for. We won't use blood. In the mainstream, we will not use blood in our beliefs. Okay, now that that's done, like I said, I'm going to be doing a debunking video to cover all of what I discussed through this, to kind of get people to have a better understanding of what it is we're doing. The best way for people to be more tolerant is to know what we're doing. There are some things that I will not record, like I've stated in one video or another, or I'm going to state in this one. When I do record my rituals, which I've got one coming up, I think it's the 20th this month, is a new moon. So I'm going to record that and actually post it, so you guys can actually see what goes on during a new moon ritual. The only segment of it that is going to be paused is going to be the segment of it where I am in prayer. We call it meditation and prayer. They're pretty much the same thing. We're just basically communing with whoever we see as our higher power, whether it be a general goddess and god, goddess, a cultural pantheon of some kind, and I'll get into pantheons in an actual video devoted to them, and a series of it. I'm probably going to make this video into a series, tools, so that when I discover new ones that I discuss with other pagans such as myself, I can actually make a video about it and pass that information on to y'all. The next tool is going to be the wand. Yes, traditionally, your athame, your chalice, your wand, your candles are all made on your own, with your own hand. However, I can fix a cell phone all live long day, every day, all day. But I can't make anything that has to do with metalwork when it comes to blacksmithing. Chalice, I can't get on I way beyond my skill, can't do it. I can make wands, but I chose to buy mine because I just don't have the time. I have 2 jobs, trying to get back into college, trying to get a place that a house of my own that I will own. You know, and with this whole pandemic thing, it's just too much going on my plate right now for me to make my own. Plus, I can't go out and just go to like a public place, like a park or something like that. Many of you will say yes, you can, but I don't feel like being out in the woods for 2 to 3 hours with a mask on. So I'm going to go ahead and forego that and just buy mine. Yes, many of you will probably recognize this, that are some of my viewers that are Harry Potter fans, such as myself. I am, that's why I went ahead and got this. Is a replica of a wand used in the movie. I don't remember whose, and if you can actually identify, cool, put it in the comments. I'd love to remember that, because when I bought it, I knew it, but I've had it for a while now, so I don't really remember. The wand is associated with the element of air, and the goddess herself. It is not as heavily used. In any given ritual, I would say, like new moon or full moon, I may pick it up off the altar and use it maybe 2 or 3 times. The athame, bunch more. Traditionally, if you do your research, and I will actually cover this in another video, it's made of a specific set of wood. There's like 3 or 4 what's considered holy woods used in wand making. Let's see. If you can find the time to make your own, make it. But don't go into making it using the preconception that it has to be completely straight, this, and the other. My last one curved, because it was made of oak. In fact, this wand is the first wand that I've ever used that was not made by me, and it is literally the first one that is this straight. Because I used, as tradition says, I used a oak. Oak is one of the holy woods used in wand making in a traditional sense, and because of it's associated with healing, I do healing work now and then. I've always made them out of oak because they're a little bit stronger too, and they tend to handle my energy a little better because of my strength. My energy is kind of, you know. Let's see. Order of importance. I guess I could go into the candles next. Okay, candles. If you look, this one here, it has a pentagram on it. Yes, I'll get into that later on in this video. This size, which is referred to as a pillar candle, most of you will think that a pillar candle is just a standalone candle. It's not inside a jar or anything like that, but this size is still a pillar candle, even though it is inside of a glass jar. I don't like to use them on an altar because they're just a little too large for the altar. They take up too much space. So I use a candle this size. This would be considered a votive candle. Yes, it is still in a jar, but because of its size and shape, which is what is used in the candle making industry to determine what it would be referred to as, whether it be a pillar candle, votive candle, or a stick candle. That, the one I just showed you, is considered a votive candle because of its size and shape. Is what I use, not necessarily the color of it, but the size and whatnot is what I use on my altar for. I've got a red one, and right now I have a white one on there because my altar is still set up from the last full moon. Your color candles I got my candles from Walmart, both votive and pillar, larger and smaller ones that I just showed you. They're more readily available, so I go ahead and get them in. They can be kind of pricey though. The larger ones are like $5, so if you get 4 of them, you're already spending $20 on your candles. For the 4 quarters candles, the cool thing about using the Walmart candles is in the change in the seasons, when you go from go into spring and you go into summer and whatnot, the colors grow darker and lighter depending on the time of year. So I actually have, like right now, they're bright blues and bright yellows and this, that, and the other because summer. When you do a new moon ritual, the only color candle that you're going to change to is a black Right now, I can't seem to find Walmart's a little short on, and given the situation, I can understand it because they're devoting more to the basic supplies and needs of everybody in the community, so I can understand why it would be missing that. Okay, well, anyway, noticed something about my shirt. Anyway, let's see. Black would be the new moon goddess candle. Red would, in my opinion, there's a couple of colors that some people would use that differ from mine. For God, I use a red candle because I mostly access the passionate, loving side of God as far as his energy type, so red. Tip on candles: if you can't afford to get them in jars, it's cool. For safety reasons, I use the jars because they contain the flame and they keep fires from starting. Obviously, do not burn them near a window that has curtains and stuff like that, because you can catch curtains on fire after a certain amount of time of exposure, or if the flame is simply just too close to the curtain. I also have large pillar plates that are literally designed, they're lifted up off the ground by these little balls that are welded on them, that are designed to burn candles, and then these sit on top of that to, you know, safety is kind of important. You don't want to burn your house down trying to do a ritual. And to put it simply, because most of us rent and we don't have the, most of us rent, so we burn the house down, and yeah, not a good thing. Oh, let me go ahead and get something excuse me. Now, talked about candles. Traditionally, you're going to have at least 6, 2 on the altar, 4 on the ground. The altars, some people would argue with this, but I like to leave mine up. Some people have enough room in their apartment or whatnot to be able to leave one up. But there have been times where even I didn't, you know, because of where I was in life, I didn't have enough space to leave one up, so I put it up and took it down. I didn't even have enough room for a daily devotional altar. So the easiest thing I can say about altars is that if you can't leave it up, get yourself a go to Walmart and get yourself a TV tray. My last altar was one of the smaller TV trays. Make sure there's not a lot of metal involved in that though. The TV trays I'm referring to are wooden, made of pine from the looks of it. And then you have another one that I found that was actually a larger one that functions like a TV tray, but it's actually designed to be like a small office kind of thing where you can put a stand, like I'm holding up my phone right now with, for your tablet or your laptop, where you can actually sit, you know, comfort of your living room on a couch or something and actually use it as a desk. It's not much larger than your traditional TV tray, so you're not going to get much more space with it, but I did find that even that little bit of added space gave me more room for other items on the altar that I want to include, but because of space issues, I couldn't. A little bit about the cloth that you see on an altar, if you've ever had a friend of yours who is pagan and you actually stumbled across their altar and asked them about it. Quick note, if you are looking to get into this, don't go into somebody's house who's teaching you and just start touching their tools. That's actually not a good thing. You don't want to touch somebody else's tools and stuff like that because you leave your energy within it. And if you're not in a good mood that day, or you came in contact with a lot of negativity that day, that's going to be left behind on the items that are being used by them. That's not good. Ask their permission first, and if they grant you that permission, then touch it. Because then they can actually be aware and kind of keep the energy from soaking in. Now, this is my altar cloth. It's all folded up. This one's going to be the one that's going to be on my altar come the 20th on the new moon. I'm gonna try and record it, but I can't make any promises right now, you guys, because quite frankly, if I forget that I just want to get it done, because traditionally I start setting up my altar for that night's ritual literally 30 minutes before I start. And traditionally, which I follow the tradition, you don't have to, anytime after sundown is good, as long as the sun is fully down. You can start your rituals and start your setups and stuff like that. Mine is the traditional new moon cloth is going to be solid black. Mine is black, with predominantly black with white dots on it, and I thought it was cool because it reminds me that even in the darkest times there's still light, the stars, and I like to have that association, having stars and whatnot. Now, moving on, it's not a requirement and not everybody does this, but we have items that are associated with our house guardians, which are our spiritual guides, so to speak, and protectors, because they will protect their own. Mine is a wolf, as you can see by what's on this turquoise stone here. And no, that's not a solid, real chunk of turquoise. I can tell it's fake because it's too uniform. I also have this one. This was on my altar until I accidentally knocked it off one day and broke it. I'm gonna have to find the other paw so I can glue it back together and start using it again. They can go on either your daily devotional or your altar or both. From a traditional sense, they're kept on both. You have a representation on both of them, because you're supposed to honor your ancestors and your house guardians. Well, I see it as better as doing it all the time, every day. But if you don't have room on, if you're using like the traditional smaller TV tray that I suggested to you, or a small altar, you may not want to include them on the ones for your full moon, new moon, and high days, because it is a space filler, and if you're limited on space, it's not a good idea to have something on there that is not actually going to be used too much on the altar. Okay, moving on to the next tool. You have your bell. Some will use a bell, some will not. This is not one of your more common tools used on it. I use it, so I'm going to mention it. The bell is meant to be rung as many times as what you're trying to do with it. It is traditionally believed that the bell's tone it vibrates at such a frequency that it forces away negative energy and negative entities away from you during the ritual. It's mostly used during the cleansing part of it to cleanse the sacred space. We'll get into what sacred space is in another video. That's not what this video's purpose is. So I've covered altar cloths, athames, chalices, wands, candles, altars. Pretty much that is the basic setup. A couple things on tools. Like I said, they are a tool. They are meant to change your mentality and your mind to get you right headspace for the ritual or work that you are doing at that time. So, keeping that in mind, none of it is required to do whatever it is you're going to do. You can cast spells, you can honor the goddess, you can pray, you can commune without them. But it is always a good idea to have something to help you move along into the right mind frame, because when you're in ritual, in your sacred space, you should be focused solely on that. Tools allow you to do that because it reminds you in here what you're doing. Now, getting into the last and final tool, and one of the reasons why I got up and put it on, was a pentagram. And before you begin, it is not a symbol of Satan. It was never meant to be that. But it was vilified that way. Just like the swastika was once a Tibetan good luck charm, and was absorbed and changed into, was absorbed by the Nazi Party and changed into a symbol. That is not what it was intended originally for. So, okay. A couple of things on a pentagram. It is also referred to as a pentacle. The difference between a pentacle and a pentagram is a pentagram is an item, or it can also be referred to as a talisman that is worn or carried by a human being. Or worn and carried by, I know some people who are pagans that have pet animals that they will make one specifically connected to that animal to help protect it spiritually. Is it required to do that? No, you're not required to do that. If you're a pagan and you just don't feel up to having them wear the pentagram, then, well, you don't have to. It's not part of the tradition. I just know some that do it. The pentagram has 5 points on it. 4 of them are the 4 base elements of creation, air, fire, water, and earth. The 5th one is spirit, which some will argue that it is the spirit of goddess and God, and some will argue it is your own spirit connected within those 4 elements, and the energy in the center is all that energy put together as one. Now, a pentacle is a pentagram drawn on a surface to connect that item that it is drawn on, that has less permanency, less mobility than that of a pentagram. It is not worn. It is never worn. If it is worn, it is a pentagram. Pentacle is meant to draw all energy from spirit and the 4 base elements into that object. And allows you to use that energy to bless items, make offerings. The chalice and athame and wand are set crossing that particular pentacle. I have one on my altar, in the center of the altar, to draw that energy into the middle. Now, do you have to have one? No, you do not. I wear a pentagram because I have instilled the energy of the 4 elements and connected my own spirit and instilled the energy of the goddess and God and connected it with the goddess and God to provide more protection. It is usually used by most of us as a talisman to protect us from negative energy and negative entities that we come in contact with, to kind of shield us from that. Like myself, I like it and use it because I am what is referred to as an empath. So it's good for me to have a little bit of extra protection when I'm not at home, because I don't have some of the same protections that can walk around with me. I'm not going to walk around with, umpteen number of crystals in my in my pocket so that it, absorb that energies that I don't want to be, deal with. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the pentagram a little bit. This video is only 30 minutes long. We get an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and take up some time here and get into in-depth, less common known information about pretty much every tool. Another tool, a Book of Shadows, has nothing to do with evil. It is merely the title Book of Shadows. The shadows part of it is referring to that of the spirit world, the place of shadows. And going back to the altar cloth real quick, its representation was that of the veil between our world and the spiritual world, because our world and the spiritual world exist slightly different. Like, if you look out my window, you can see a pine tree. There's a spiritual copy of it that is slightly out of phase with our own, so it exists in the same physical space, but because it's slightly vibrating slightly differently, it is literally spirit side, physical side. Excuse me. Let's see. Book of Shadows is basically, the shadows part of it is talking about the world we can't see, because mankind at one point could not see into shadows. And if you shine a light into the shadow disappears. So you can't see it. Since we can never see the spiritual world in physical form, in our current fleshy selves, it's referred to as Shadow Realm. Now, we don't call it the Shadow Realm for obvious reasons. It's just referred to as the spiritual But back in the day, it was referred to as the shadow realm because it is something we know is there. We just can't see it because our eyes are not designed to see the spirit world. Now, some of us have been gifted with the ability to see the spirit world with our own eyes. It's a rare gift. Not many can do that. Let's see. Now, traditionally, you're not supposed to have any metal in your rituals, in your ritual space. I don't agree with that, because if your will and intent and focus is strong enough, you can overcome the effects of the metal. Metal absorbs a lot of energy, so you would have to if you had something metal in there, it's pulling that energy away and dissipating it. So you're going to have to work a lot more harshly and have a lot more focus and will and intent to have the same effect as somebody who has absolutely no metal in theirs. A lot of people would say that you have to have, that you can't take technology, watches, tablets, cell phones, smartwatches, and this, that, and the other, into ritual with you because the energies can mess with it. Well, I've actually found that as long as I am keeping in mind that that tool is in there, because I take my tablet in there every ritual now, because that's where my source information for my ritual is actually at. I don't have a physical book of shadows purely devoted to the ritual anymore. I went electronic. Some would probably put the arguments in the comments saying you shouldn't be doing that. You're bad, but no. It is not necessary to, because I know it's there, so I can protect the device from harm from the energy that I'm using. Like I said, will and intent. Some say you have to use a lighter. Some getting onto using flame and whatnot. Some say you'd have to use matchsticks to light your candles. No, I've not very often done that, because if I'm doing an outside ritual and it's even the slightest bit of wind, it could blow them out. It fuddles with a lot of things. Most of us have modernized that into using Zippos and lighters and whatnot. I have more lighters and Zippos all over my house than anything else. In fact, I have one Zippo, but the rest are lighters. I have one lighter that is pretty much pristinely unused, that is only used 3 times a month at the most, or if I'm doing a ritual. Let's see, candles. Oh, the pillar candles and the votive candles that are in the jars. When you get to about halfway, it gets pretty difficult to use a lighter to light them. So what you can actually do is your incense sticks, the end of them about this much is nothing but stick itself. It's not incense anymore. And that will not burn during a ritual because it's not designed to. But you can actually take those and reuse them to light your candles with. I do it all the time. So that's one tip I got for you on that one. Voice of experience. You don't want to be in the middle of your ritual and sitting there trying to get your hand down inside the candle jar, in the glass jar, to try and get that thing lit, because this is going to take away from your focus and your will, and just kind of distract you from what you're trying to do. Let me see. Let me go look at my little thing here and see if I can find something else to talk about. Oh. Blessed water, or what is referred to in more modern terminology, holy water. I keep it in a decanter. This is actually an oil decanter for like your more hoity-toity individuals who cook with certain oils and this, that, and the other for certain meals and this, that. You can find these just about anywhere. I bought this one at Bed Bath & Beyond. You don't have to. You can find them online. I've already looked at it. Whatever. I tend to store my blessed water in this, and you don't want to try and use this at the altar in the middle of your ritual. Usually I pour it in my chalice in a small votive candle holder before the ritual begins. So, but this is a whole lot easier to work with. When it empties, I empty the larger one into this one, and there's that. Traditionally speaking, your blessed water decanter is glass, or might have been wood and or stone, marble. Yeah, I let that one go. That's why I like to store what I'm currently using in this. Do something about that. This takes all the time in here. Lord. Anyway, those of you that wonder whether or not your beliefs can be used to actually do legally binding weddings, they can. I am actually a ordained clergyman through a website called Universal Life Church. They ordain you. Now, you do, a word on that is you do have local law for the state to recognize it that you have to abide by. I'm not going to get into that in any detail for the state of Louisiana and whatnot, because that's the only state that I've ever actually done weddings in. There are specific requirements per different state and parishes or counties that require certain paperwork to be turned in and this, that, and the other before you can do it. But at a national level, a federal level, if you go to the Universal Life Church website and become ordained, you can do federally recognized weddings legally. It just will not be recognized by the state you're in until you follow their rules too. There's paperwork and stuff that they probably require as well. I'm not sure. It varies from state to state and county to county and parish to parish on what those rules are, what paperwork you have to do, and this, that, and the other. But yes, you can legally do legally binding weddings and whatnot based on your on being a pagan or Wicca. Just go to that website. For those of you who find other websites and whatnot, or find another method that I don't mention in here, put that in the comments. I'd love to be able to bring that up in another video when I do a wedding video on that has to do with paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft. I'd like to be able to mention those. So if you want to, put those in the comments down there so I can actually look at it and check it out, because I kind of like that stuff. So this video is about 40 minutes long, so I only got about 20 minutes more to talk. Let's see if there's anything else I can find in here that would be worth mentioning on YouTube. A little bit on incense. There's three kinds of incense. There's the cone incense, the stick incense, and then you have free-floating incense, stuff you would burn in what's called a censer. Those of you who don't know what a censer is, if you've ever watched a movie where they're taught, the Catholic faith has that thing that swings and it has the chain coming off of it, and it's, you know, it's got that freaking incense coming out of it. The smoke coming out of it, that is a censer. It is an item used in our beliefs, probably long before long before Catholicism used it. Now, before anybody of the Christian's faith or Catholics get on my comments and start yelling and screaming at me and blah blah blah, you're this, that, you're stealing this, you know, it's not blah 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 blah. No. There's too many instances where those particular items, and any of the items you've seen tonight on this video, that occurred before any mention of it was in Christian faith. Many of the symbols and whatnot, Cup of Christ, I don't know what they would refer to it as in Christian faith. Anyway, many of the symbols were used during the Roman Catholic time to attempt to convert those. Even the pentagram at one time was attempted to be used by the Catholic Church, but it drove so many back to paganism that they stopped using it and vilified it to where it would be an evil symbol and this, that, and the other, but whatever. Let's see. Anything else? Talk about that. Okay. Word about the incense. I find cone incense the easiest to use. Stick incense the second easiest to use. I haven't used free-floating incense yet, where you actually have a bowl or a censer that you burn the stuff in on a piece of charcoal. I found it too cumbersome. It's just much simpler for me to use cone and stick. I buy all of my stick and all my cone incense right from Walmart, just down about 20-minute walk from here. So, like I said, it's just like tools. Don't put yourself out there buying all the different kinds of scented, different scents of incense and this, that, and the other. Sandalwood. I use sandalwood mostly, dragon's blood more, and lavender. Those are the three that I use the most of. Of course, this is a very personal path, so quite literally, if you wish to use it, use it. It's your ritual. I use dragon's blood on the God side for blessing and cleansing, spiritual cleansing, my ritual space. So that's why that one's always used in my rituals. As far as the goddess's incense, I use a stick and a cone. The cone is always going to be a lavender because for whatever reason, that's what she likes. Doesn't mean that that she'd be wanting you to use that same one as I am. She may want you to use different scent. You'll know what to use. It'll call to you. That's about it. Leave yourself, I would say if you're going to set up an altar and leave it up, I would leave yourself, traditionally it is, the sacred space is done in a circle 9 paces from your altar. Not a lot of people can do that. Mine is restricted to about 6 paces from the middle of the altar. Your altar is always the center facing north. Some will put their altar in the north, but I never really felt much of a connection that way because everything draws, all the energy draws to the center of the circle anyway. So put your altar in the center of the circle and everything you're doing is right there. All the energy you're working with is right there at the altar. I have a small crystal, small, it's a chunk about yay big, that stays underneath my altar to collect all the excess energy and basically just store it for later use. Not required, not something that people traditionally do within our beliefs. So it's not necessary for you to have one. It's a raw chip. For me, it's just a raw chunk of crystal that has quartz crystal that traditionally just stays there and collects that energy for me. Let's see. Leave yourself, I would say about 10 feet in every direction. If you can't leave one up, that's fine. You don't have to. I leave mine up because I keep my room bolted shut when I'm not here. I won't go into the reasons on that because it's not something I want to talk about on this video. Let's see. About it for this one. Tools and whatnot. If you guys can think of any tools you'd like me to talk about, because I have a general working knowledge of pretty much everything that's used in paganism because I've been practicing for so long, just to kind of give you some experience on this. I'm 36 years old. I've been practicing since I was 19. I was a Christian before that for about 5 years. So I've read the Bible about 3 times through, so I know what it says. So that you guys know that I'm just not, so I've been practicing that long, so I have a pretty good working knowledge of pretty much all the tools that are out there. So if you have any questions on something that I didn't cover in here as far as tools, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll do a Q&A video, or I'll go live one of these times and just answer questions from comments. And if I'm in my live and you guys jump in there, feel free to ask questions during my live. I'll be happy to answer anything you'd like. Even stuff that's not even dealing with the topic of paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft and whatnot. So, you guys have yourselves a good night. I will see you on TikTok if you're on there, and I'll see you again on another video here on YouTube. If you're joining me from TikTok, you probably got the video that I'm probably going to be posting as soon as this one gets posted, announcing this video is here. If you're on TikTok, there's been a rumor going around that TikTok's going to be banned in the US. I don't think that's actually going to happen, mainly because it's an election year. He needs votes. Trump's probably not going to get reelected. I would not like to see him. For all you Trump supporters out there, I know I'm going to catch hell for this, but I don't want to see him in office. He has completely kerfuffled the entire situation with this pandemic and everything and whatnot. He could have done a much better job at a lot of the things that he has done. Now, there are some good things he's done, like any president. There's good and bad. But he has done more damage to this country than anything else. Because some of his responses to the Black Lives Matter situation, to the pandemic, it's not been good. We don't need him in there anymore. Quite honestly, I don't like being political. But there are some things he's done during his presidency that are not political. They have to do with basic freedoms that everybody should have already had, but don't have. And this video is almost 45 minutes long, so I'm going to need to put an end to this video. But on that note, like I said, subscribe, comment below. I appreciate you guys, and I love you guys dearly. Stay strong. We'll make it through this. We'll make it through everything together. We are stronger when together. Like I said, if you have any questions, comments, have a good night.